Galatea Merrythought. Before Voldemort and Harry destroyed Hogwarts, there was Professor Galatea Merrythought, the long-standing Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher who held the position for almost 50 years. She began teaching sometime in the late 1800s, and still at Hogwarts when a young Tom Riddle walked its halls. Yes, when he still had a nose. Galatea Merrythought was a Ravenclaw by house and a duelist by reputation. Merrythought was known across the wizarding world for her unmatched skill in defensive magic and her no-nonsense attitude toward the dark arts. She wasn't born into fame or fortune. She earned her post after outsmarting a group of dark wizards during a ministry training duel, catching the attention of then headmaster Phineas Nigellus Black. Her appointment was based purely on merit, rare for that time, and she quickly proved herself indispensable. Basically, she got the job without a family name or a Felix Felicis potion, which in Hogwarts terms is historic. By the time she retired around the 1940s, she had become a legend at Hogwarts, but her departure left a void, and it was that very vacancy that attracted an ambitious former student with charm, brilliance, and darkness. Her quiet retirement marked the beginning of Hogwarts' most infamous curse, Tom Riddle. When Tom Marvolo Riddle returned to Hogwarts after graduation, he wasn't just another ambitious alums, he was already walking the thin line between genius and monstrosity. Riddle applied for the Defense Against the Dark Arts position, seeing it as both a symbol of power and a way to stay close to the one place he'd ever considered home. Headmaster Armando Dippet, unaware of Riddle's growing obsession with the dark arts, turned him down politely, telling him he was too young. Riddle left the castle, but not the idea. He spent years working at Borgin and Burke's, collecting dark artifacts, splitting his soul and watching the wizarding world forget his name. Years later, he returned, no longer the handsome student, but Lord Voldemort. This time, Dumbledore was headmaster, and he saw exactly what Tom Riddle had become. When Voldemort asked again for the position, Dumbledore refused. He took one look and thought, we already have enough drama in Transfiguration. The rejection stung deeper than any spell. As he left the castle, something shifted, a silent act of revenge. From that moment on, no Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher would ever last more than 1 year. Some say Voldemort cursed the position deliberately. Others believe his presence alone poisoned it. Either way, the post became infamous. The revolving door of Hogwarts. Every teacher after Riddle's visit would suffer misfortune, madness, or dismissal before the year's end. So, while Tom Riddle never officially taught a single class, his influence became the most enduring lesson Hogwarts ever learned. That ambition without empathy turns even brilliance into a curse. Quirinus Quirrell. The first victim of the Defense Against the Dark Arts curse in Harry's time was Professor Quirinus Quirrell, a timid, stammering man whose nervousness wasn't just an act. Before teaching defense, Quirrell had been a scholar of theoretical magic, but theory bored him. He wanted proof that evil existed, and he wanted to meet it face to face. During his sabbatical abroad, he found it. Deep in the forests of Albania, Quirrell encountered Voldemort, weak, bodiless, but still dangerously persuasive. Instead of resisting, Quirrell offered himself, craving recognition, power, and purpose. Voldemort accepted, quite literally, possessing Quirrell's body and sharing his skin. So technically, Voldemort did become a Hogwarts professor. Congratulations, noseless man. When Quirrell returned, he came to Hogwarts seeking refuge, and Dumbledore, perhaps suspicious, hired him anyway. Some believe he saw through the disguise, letting events unfold to fulfill the prophecy and test the boy he was quietly preparing for destiny. Classic Dumbledore, turning a security breach into a teaching opportunity. By the time classes began, Quirrell wore a turban and a secret. He hunted the Philosopher's Stone, serving his masters while pretending to serve Dumbledore. But Voldemort's host was too fragile. When Harry touched him, love itself destroyed him, proving that the simplest magic could undo the darkest soul. Gilderoy Lockhart. Then came Gilderoy Lockhart, the polar opposite of Quirrell. One hid behind fear, the other behind hair gel. Author, celebrity, self-proclaimed Order of Merlin, 3rd class, and the wizarding world's favorite fraud. Lockhart didn't earn his fame through bravery, he stole it. He hunted down true heroes, heard their stories, and then wiped their memories using his signature Obliviate, claiming their deeds as his own. His books, Magical Me, Gadding with Ghouls, Voyages with Vampires, were part memoir, part pure fiction. Dumbledore hired him mostly because no one else wanted the cursed job. Either that or he was collecting chaos like trading cards. During the Chamber of Secrets crisis, Lockhart's cowardice met its mirror. When he tried to erase Harry and Ron's memories, his wand backfired, and the Obliviate hit himself instead. He ended up in St. Mungo's signing autographs on invisible paper. Still convinced he's famous and technically not wrong, Lockhart proved that ego can be just as dangerous as any curse. Remus Lupin. When Remus Lupin arrived at Hogwarts in 1993, most students didn't know they were about to meet the best defense against the dark arts teacher in decades. Which says a lot, considering one of the previous guys had Voldemort living rent-free on the back of his head. Lupin carried secrets heavier than his suitcase and scars no spell could heal. Yet somehow he remained quiet, gentle, and unshakably kind. Unlike his predecessors, Lupin didn't rely on flashy theory or hollow bravado. He taught survival, practical lessons, real monsters, and real courage. He made even the simplest students believe they could fight back. From Hoggarts to Dementors, Lupin turned fear itself into a lesson. His greatest gift wasn't his wand, it was empathy. But Lupin's curse wasn't magical, it was biological. He was a werewolf, bitten as a child by Fenrir Greyback. Dumbledore had hired him in secret, believing Hogwarts needed more than just defense, it needed compassion. Everything was going perfectly until Snape, ever the opportunist, decided to accidentally reveal Lupin's condition to the entire school. Parents panicked, the ministry intervened, and Lupin resigned before the year's end. He left quietly, just as he'd arrived, leaving behind the only defense class that had ever truly prepared students for life. His time was short, but his lessons about kindness, control, and inner strength outlasted the curse itself. Mad-Eye Moody. In 1994, Hogwarts welcomed Alastor Mad-Eye Moody, or so everyone thought. The real Moody never even made it to class. The man teaching defense that year was Barty Crouch Jr., one of Voldemort's most devoted Death Eaters, using Polyjuice Potion to impersonate the famous Auror. Perfect score for Dumbledore's hiring record. First a Dark Lord, then a fraud, then a werewolf, and now a Death Eater? Truly, the man knows talent when he sees it. The irony? Barty disguised as Moody was actually a fantastic teacher. He taught students real combat magic, disarming spells, unforgivable curses, survival tactics. He even inspired Harry to face challenges head-on, like a true Auror in training. But his lessons weren't meant to protect Hogwarts. They were part of a long game. Every spell, every praise, every moment of mentorship was manipulation. His goal was to guide Harry straight into Voldemort's hands through the Triwizard Tournament. Talk about career dedication. Those teachers just grade papers. This one plotted a resurrection. When the truth unraveled, Dumbledore found the real Moody locked inside a 7-compartment trunk, alive but scared. Barty was exposed, his polyjuice depleted, his madness overflowing. It was one of the darkest reveals in Hogwarts history. A Death Eater teaching the very art of defending against Death Eaters, and doing it better than anyone else. Dolores Umbridge. Then came Dolores Jane Umbridge, the pink menace disguised as authority, because apparently Hogwarts hadn't suffered enough. Sent by the ministry in 1995, she wasn't there to defend students from the dark arts. She was there to defend the ministry from reality. Under her rule, defense against the dark arts became a masterclass in theoretical obedience. No practical spells, no talk of Voldemort. No thinking in general. Just blood quills, kitten plates, and enough pink to give even Lockhart a migraine. It was like torture, but make it aesthetic. Umbridge believed control equaled safety. To her, the dark arts were less dangerous than teenagers with opinions. She turned Hogwarts into a dictatorship powered by passive aggression, recruiting Slytherins into her inquisitorial squad, basically the world's worst internship program. But Hogwarts has never done well with tyranny. Dumbledore's army formed in secret, and for once, the kids did actually do their homework. Revolution. While she wrote rules, students wrote spells. While she banned defense, they built it underground. Her downfall was poetic, exposed, chased into the forbidden forest, and nearly torn apart by centaurs, creatures she called half-breeds. The forest said, "Say that again." Fun fact, in the books, Dumbledore actually rescued her. Why? No idea. Probably for character development. Personally, I'd have let karma handle the sequel. Dolores Umbridge remains proof that the darkest magic doesn't always come from wands. Sometimes it wears pink, smiles sweetly, and files paperwork in triplicate. Severus Snape. Before he ever held a wand at the front of a classroom, Severus Snape was already starring in Hogwarts' longest-running telenovela. Poor kid from Spinner's End fell for Lily Evans, brilliant, kind, Gryffindor to the core, and lost her to James Potter, arrogant, rich, hair like it's auditioning for a shampoo ad. Heartbroken, Snape joined the Death Eaters, but when Voldemort targeted Lily, he ran to Dumbledore, begging him to protect her. The ultimate, "I've made a huge mistake" moment. Dumbledore tried. Lily still died. From that day, guilt became Snape's Patronus. So, when Dumbledore offered redemption, protect the boy, keep my secrets. Oh, and pretend to hate everyone. He agreed, and Dumbledore, ever the drama enthusiast, turned that pain into purpose. Fun fact, some say Snape's resentment toward Neville came from the prophecy. If Voldemort had chosen Neville instead of Harry, Lily might still be with us. Fast forward to 1996, he finally gets the Defense Against the Dark Arts job he's wanted for 16 years. The irony? The curse made sure it would also be his last. By then, Snape wasn't just a teacher, he was Dumbledore's most dangerous piece on the board. His position placed him inches from Voldemort's inner circle, feeding intel to the Order while pretending loyalty to the Dark Lord. He was the bridge between both wars, protecting Harry not because he cared for him, but because he still loved his mother. In class, his lessons were ruthless but real. He made students duel, think, and survive, not for grades, but for the war that was coming. When Dumbledore's death came by Snape's own hand, it seemed like betrayal, until the truth revealed the sacrifice. Snape died defending the very world that never trusted him. The villain turned guardian, the spy turned savior, and the only man who proved that love, not magic, is the strongest defense of all. Amycus Carrow. By the time Amycus Carrow took over the post in 1997, Hogwarts was no longer a school, it was an occupation. With Dumbledore gone and Voldemort in power, Amycus wasn't hired, he was installed. His title was still Defense Against the Dark Arts, but the word defense was quietly removed. The class was simply called Dark Arts now, and that said it all. Carrow didn't teach protection, he taught submission. Students were forced to practice the Cruciatus curse on one another to obey or be punished. Under his command, the classroom became a miniature dictatorship, a place where cruelty was graded and fear was the final exam. He and his sister Alecto, who taught Muggle studies, turned Hogwarts into Voldemort's propaganda machine. But the curse of the position was still working, this time not metaphorically. When the Battle of Hogwarts ended, the Carrows fell faster than any of their victims. Neville Longbottom, who once trembled in their class, stood against them with a sword in hand. Amycus Carrow reign ended the way all tyranny does, swiftly and without ceremony. Post-war successors. When Voldemort died, the curse died with him. For the first time in half a century, Hogwarts had a Defense Against the Dark Arts professor who didn't vanish, resign, or explode by summer. The position finally stabilized, though J.K. Rowling never confirmed who took over permanently. Some say Harry Potter was offered the job and refused, choosing instead to rebuild the Auror department. So, Hogwarts never filled the position, which means the job's open, and guess what? You're next in line. But to be officially qualified, you'll need to complete your training. Click the next lesson before Snape changes his mind, or the curse does.